Leather glove, no secret. Buckles on the jacket, it's elite.
It's been a pretty interesting year for the New Orleans Pelicans. Some would even say it's been pretty disappointing. A brief summary for their season: it was defined by early season struggles. For the first 10, 15, 20 games, they were really struggling to find their groove. And it was also a season of them reverting back to old ways. Early on in the season, their defense was firing on all cylinders. It was top third in the league for defensive rating, but it fell off a cliff. To talk about their players specifically, let's start with their top performers. One being Zion Williamson. He's doing what we expected Zion to do. He's just getting more minutes to do so, which is why his counting numbers, points per game, rebounds, and assists are all up while retaining basically the same efficiency that he displayed in his rookie year. He's been dominant inside the paint, the majority of his shots coming from 0 to 3 feet. His three-point shot is somewhat of a thing. He's taking about a 3 every 2 games, so it's something that the defenses have to think about, and it's just an indication that he's not entirely afraid of taking that shot, and the passing is there. It's something that we saw a bit like in flashes in his rookie year, but he's getting a bit more leeway to show off his playmaking, or not just via the post, but also he's getting some more opportunities to play that point forward role. Not really point forward, but he's just bringing the ball up in transition a lot, and Lonzo, Ingram, and Coach Van Gundy are trusting him to make good decisions there. And his health this year, it's been a great sign. He's played 44 of 48 games. He's currently out today against the Houston Rockets, but he's played all but 4 games as of now, and he's playing 33 minutes a night. Health, stamina, conditioning, those were all question marks for Zion Williamson, and he's kind of proving all of those things wrong. Like, he's been pretty available throughout the season thus far. On offense, he's going to be one of the best offensive weapons in the entire league, but defense has been a big question mark in his short NBA career. There's been some development on that end, but he still has some room to improve. His closeouts are still a bit lackluster. He can get burned on the perimeter from time to time. And his defensive rebounding, which is something that should have been a great strength for him, it should be a great strength for Zion. It just isn't as impactful as his offensive rebounding. It just seems that he really isn't engaged or as focused in terms of doing the little things like boxing out to ensure that that defensive possession is won, while he is really engaged on the offensive glass to get the ball and put it right back up immediately. Things like that are going to help him on the defensive end, and progression as a defender will allow him to hit that next level as a superstar in the league. The next top performer is Brandon Ingram. He's putting up consistent numbers from last year, his most improved player campaign last year. He's a certified bucket, definitive 3-level scorer. He has great percentages from all distances from the rim, and he's still improving as a playmaker. He's almost at 5 assists per game, which is a great mark to hit as a scoring wing. And I think he can be like a 25, 5 and 5 guy for the remainder of his prime. He is also one of the best up-and-coming young scorers in our league. But on the defensive end, there were some question marks early in his career, but he's always had the potential to be a great defender because of his athletic gifts. From what I've seen, his one-on-one defense has improved greatly. He's also getting over screens better. That was one big knock on his defensive game. He was really just getting destroyed by screens early in his career because he wasn't as strong as he is now. It might not look like he's developed much strength since his rookie year, but he is bigger than his rookie year, and he's not getting killed by screens anymore. As for one-on-one defense, Ingram is still improving, and I would say he's a good one-on-one defender, but the Pelicans team defense is still suffering, so I don't really know what to make of that there. The only thing on offense that I would like to see from him more is I want to see him get to the rim more. He's only taking about 15% of his shots from 0 to 3 feet, and that's down from around 25% last year. So I could understand it because you got players like Steven Adams coming into the fold, who's not going to provide any spacing down there, and you're playing him and Zion at your big man position, so it's going to be harder for him to get to the rim, but I would still like to see that field goal attempted percentage from 0 to 3 feet higher than 15%. So what's the next step in his evolution? I think it's leadership. I think if he can be a bit more of a leader, that's going to be something that takes him to that superstar level, because he has all the tools offensively. He has all the tools for defensive potential, and he's really realizing that defensive potential this year. He's playing extremely well, but the team success and the team defense has not followed suit. So I think leadership is something that can take his game and take this team to the next level. BI is a mild-mannered guy, so it's probably not something that we're going to expect from him to be like a vocal leader like most superstars are. But it's kind of a tie between either him or Zion to start to lead this young core to something in the W column. Moving into notable others, I just want to talk about Lonzo Ball. He's having a good year. Nothing too extraordinary, but after a horrible start to the year where all of his shooting percentages were extremely bad, he really turned the corner in February, became a bit more aggressive, his threes were starting to fall, and he's finishing at the best rate in his entire career. And that was always a knock on his offensive game, his lack of aggression, and his lack of ability to finish at the rim. And also his free throws are finally falling, his best free throw percentage of his career. It looks like he's figured something out from the line. Thank God, because watching Lonzo Ball shoot free throws in LA and in his first year in New Orleans was just dreadful to see. He's the team's most trusted on-ball defender. Lonzo's really been a great on-ball defender for these past 2 or 3 years. He's got the size and athleticism and just instincts to be a great defending point guard. I just have a question as to what his ceiling is. Is he just going to be a solid playmaking point guard that can knock down a catch and shoot corner three at a good rate while being the best perimeter defender in the starting lineup? I think what could take his game to the next level is developing a tighter handle and an in-between game. This is kind of what hurts his ability to operate in the pick and roll in the half court, because you don't really have to pay too much attention to Lonzo in the mid-range. Like a mid-range pull-up, that's not really something in his game that much. He's not great with floaters either. So if he could develop an in-between game to make him a bit more threatening with the ball in his hands in the half court, I think that could get him to around 17 or 18 points per game. Looking at this team as a whole, they're 8th in offensive rating. That's the big strength with New Orleans, their offense. They have 2 guys that are adept at scoring on and off the ball with Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. Lonzo and Bledsoe are shooting well from 3. These were 2 point guards that have been kind of meh from three-point land in the past in their careers, but they're shooting great from 3. And they're 2 additional playmakers outside of your 2 shot creators in Brandon and Zion. And then Adams is scoring very effectively inside. And their second unit is led by Josh Hart and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who are providing some pop off the bench as well. So offense isn't really the problem for them, besides some late game offensive issues. Offense as a whole is pretty solid for New Orleans. It's on the defensive end where everything just does a 180. They're 28th in defensive rating. I don't know if there is like one person to blame here. I think you just have to look at youth as a whole. Like, young teams just aren't really going to be good defensively. Like, they just don't tend to be good defensively. Stan Van Gundy came in with an emphasis to improve the Pelicans defense. Defense was great early on in the year, like I said, but it just fell off a cliff with time. And they have pretty good defensive personnel in their starting lineup with Lonzo, Bledsoe, and BI on the perimeter. Adams is one of the most solid defensive centers in the league, one of the best defensive rebounding centers in the league, and boxing out as well. And with Zion as your worst defender in your starting lineup, it should be an above average defense. But the defense off the bench is another story. Nickeil Alexander-Walker still has some gaffes. Jackson Hayes isn't a consistent rim protector. He makes a lot of mental errors, whether that is just rotating obvious help defense or just defending in the pick and roll. He gets caught in no man's land a lot of times. And then when JJ Redick was on the team, he could be a decent team defender on a talented and well-coached defensive team, like that season with the Jimmy Butler 76ers, but that just ain't the case here, or wasn't the case. The only plus defender off the bench for New Orleans is Josh Hart. And now you could say James Johnson, who's on this team now, but as for people that have been there for the entire year, Josh Hart is really the only plus defender off the bench, but he's not somebody that can carry a defensive unit though. Let's dive into strengths and weaknesses for New Orleans. Their obvious strength is attacking the rim, scoring inside or getting to the line. BI and Zion combined for like 13 free throw attempts per game. And then rebounding. This team is big as fuck. Like, Bledsoe and Lonzo are 2 great rebounding point guards. Lonzo is a big point guard and Eric Bledsoe plays bigger than his size. Ingram is a 6'10 small forward. Zion is a rebounding behemoth. He's just an athletic anomaly. And then Adams is one of the best centers at boxing out. So rebounding was going to be an obvious strength for them coming into the season. A big weakness for them is obviously defense. It's just bad in general. I don't want to beat a dead horse over and over again, but their defense is bad. And three-point shooting is also a weakness. They have a below average three-point percentage on a low clip. Normally, a team that has a low clip of three-point attempts has an at least average to top third three-point percentage, but that just isn't the case. They don't have that many great three-point shooters outside of Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson's creation. Projections for the end of the season, I think they'll finish 11th, and I think they'll miss the play-in tournament. I think this rough start to the season is just going to come back to haunt them. They're not going to really be able to overcome that with teams like Memphis, Golden State. I think they're a bit more trustworthy to end the season than New Orleans. The Pelicans have a talented, high-powered offense behind their young, dynamic duo of Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, and there seems to be a great fit with Lonzo being a non-ball dominant point guard. However, they're one of the league's worst defenses, something that is severely derailing their team's success. I don't think we've seen any reason to believe that their defense will improve anytime this season without any major adjustments to rotations. For that reason, I think the Pelicans will remain behind the Grizzlies and just miss out on the play-in tournament, thus missing the playoffs.